Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the finale of the LEC predictions videos. Today, we have the last team on our list of teams alphabetically to cover, which is Vitality. Now, this squad did do quite well, in my opinion, in the LEC last year, narrowly missing out on playoffs, I might add. This time, they're coming in with an entirely fresh roster that looks very strong, and I cannot wait to break this down for you guys. But if you want to know the players that are involved, we start with Schizgender in the top lane, Schemes in the jungle, Milika in the mid lane, Comp and Lebrov, the bot lane duo, returning yet again. Without further ado, now that we know the players, let us jump into the player breakdowns. Our first player we're covering in this video is a current European Masters winner in Schizgender, who is the new top laner for Vitality. Now, I've probably butchered his name countless times during this video so far, but apologies for that. And yeah, this guy is actually really strong. He granted was going up against, in the European Masters, Gamers Legion in the finals, whose top laner was prioritizing Ornn pretty much every single game that he could get in, and that's the big issue here for grading his stats, because he was basically having to pick a carry into an Ornn. And I'll be honest, his win record is phenomenally good. Looking at his KDAs, they're actually really high. Honestly, very good. His lowest KDA that I can see from European Masters onwards is literally a 2.75, and that was in the Trinity Force tournament on his Camille. And when I mention Camille, he's known for playing a lot of carries. The Renekton's, the Malphites, the Akalis, the Camille's, even the Shen from time to time has been picked up by him. He likes carries, basically, as a top laner. And looking at his stats, mechanically I've gone with a 3.8. Reason being is he's very strong on these carries. He also can play tanks. He's also played Ornns. He's played the Scions. They're his main two tanks that he's played. And as such, that's why he's getting quite a decent score for his mechanics. As for communication / leadership / talking to people and hoping that it works out, I've gone with a 3. Reason being is, yes, he is a good top laner, but I can't exactly say he's going to communicate well with this squad. Vitality, French squad, he's coming in from Polish squad. There's also, could be a few issues there with communication. However, I've gone in with just a solid 3 because you don't know until you see how they play together and how they mesh. So you've got to give the average score for that. Lastly, for his 2020 accomplishments, 4.3. Probably the highest on this Vitality squad that you're going to see because of the fact that he won the European Masters, and he technically also won the Trinity Force tournament as well. I'm not going to pronounce his full name because I can't. Anyway, let's move over to our next player. Up next is a jungler who's been playing quite a lot recently in terms of tournaments, as he competed in the LFL Summer for Vitality Bees, as well as in the LEC Summer Split for Vitality towards the end of the season. It is Schemes. Now, this guy, I feel, gets a little bit of what I call flack for how he plays because of the fact that when he came into the LEC team, Vitality squad were actually doing quite well. Niji were doing good in the jungle, but when Schemes came in, a sort of slump began for Vitality, I would say. Now, whether or not that is due to cohesion and all that being messed up, or the fact that Schemes just need to warm up to a tougher competition. And looking over his stats, you're going to notice that I've not been too generous to him. 3.7 for mechanics. He plays Hecarim, Lilia, and he's played Lee Sin in the LFL. That's literally all he played. So realistically, he could be outplayed quite easily by some of the other teams, and we saw that as his win record in the LFL is not very favourable. 3 wins out of the 8 games that he played in the LFL. And then you look at the LEC, he played Set, Lee Sin and Volley Trundle here as well. He literally didn't play too many farm heavy junglers other than the Lilia. So he plays 2 different styles realistically is what I've noticed, and that is something you don't tend to see as a player. And I'm intrigued to know why he's doing this. Obviously mechanically he is alright, I would say, but not the best. Leadership and communication, I was going to be a bit harsher on him for this because obviously switching between 2 squads is a big issue because you've got to accustom yourself to them 2 teams. You've got to change between them, how you communicate. Maybe you're a shot caller in one, maybe you're the guy that's trying to sort issues or call for ganks in another team. It just realistically depends how you play, so 3.7 yet again for that. Lastly, 2020 accomplishments. You're going to notice this for all Vitality players in this video, a 2. Honestly, finishing in, second to last isn't the biggest of things, but I was being generous here because I would have given them a 1.5. Had it not been for the fact that I felt Vitality honestly did exceptionally well. They went 1-on-1 with pretty much every team, bar the likes of XL, who beat them twice, and I do believe Fnatic, the other team that beat them twice. But looking at their stats, they went 1-on-1 with pretty much everyone. That includes G2 and the Mad Lions and Rogue, the top 3 teams in the league they managed to take a game off of. And it's kind of down to how they played during their bot lane success, and we'll get to the bot lane in a minute, but that's where they found a lot of their success. Up next is the mid laner for Vitality, Milika, who as a whole performed quite well in the LEC last year. Granted, there were a lot of losses for Vitality then, he still performed exceptionally consistently. He wasn't realistically getting high amounts of kills or dying very little, but he still was just performing to a decent level to make sure his team can perform, and he just fit the mold of being the guy that's just there to pump out a lot of damage in team fights and not realistically care about CS, which granted he did do quite well, but he still wasn't really the best mid laner in terms of performances. Now, looking at his stats, we're going to start with mechanics at a 4. Honestly, he is a good mid laner who likes to play a lot of control mages. He goes from Azir, Zoe, Ori, Corki as well in there, and he realistically tries to stick to the same champions that can basically isolate targets and allow his team to just clean up and do the work. That's his sort of style. He likes to set up and get the kills for his team, or his team get the kills. It's a 1 or 2 situation, hence why we've gone in with a nice 4 for that. Communication now, 4 again. Honestly, I feel he's got to step up this year in terms of leading this squad, because Cabashard, who was their captain, obviously is no longer in this squad, and as such they lost that solid tank player who could lead the lineup through pretty much anything. That being said, Milika could fill that role very easily with his sort of playstyle. Those mid laners who like to control the game usually are able to control the tempo and conduct how the team plays, or that skill is passed down to the support, who is obviously in charge of engages mostly, and also being in charge of how to attack things. Lastly, for his 2020 achievement, he's also gotten a 2, the same as the rest of the Vitality players that played last year. And onto probably Vitality's best half of the map, their bottom lane. And honestly, we'll focus in right now on comp, We'll get to Labrov in a few minutes. Comp, for me, is a very strong player. He was one of my standout players last year, whom I thought really got unlucky with how his squad did towards the second half of the split. And I would have loved to have seen this squad do battle with SK in the playoffs, because I felt that Crownshot and Comp were the two standout rookie ADCs in the LEC, even though Crownshot isn't a rookie. I just felt they were the two standout ADCs for me in the two lineups that kind of shone through for me. And as a whole, when we look at the stats of Comp, who managed to pick up a penta against OG, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. He managed to get that on his Ezreal in the regular split. We can look at his stats. 4.5 for mechanics. Obviously, it's high. He's a strong performing ADC. And as a whole, I would say he's one to keep eyes on during this regular season. Communication, 4. This is where his team works well, because he is the guy that can essentially just kill, execute. He's got very strong high KDs. Only a couple of games are below a 1 for KDA, and that was against Misfits where he went 0-3. But the rest of his games are very high in terms of KDAs. And as such, he's a player that you need to keep your eye on, and that's why I feel that he communicates well with his team, because he can just execute well and play with his support extremely well. Lastly, we have his 2020 achievements. Sadly, I have to give him a 2. I felt that he was a very strong performer, though Vitality's final positioning did not reflect too well on his performance. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it comes down to this. Our last player to ever analyze in 2021 Spring Split, Labrov. And honestly, this is probably one of the better players to have the last say on in this video, as to me, this guy is the best performing support in the LEC at the current moment. I would honestly say he is very, very strong. He's an extremely good playmaking support. He sets up so many plays with his Bard, his Nautilus, and also his Thresh. He was exceptionally good at keeping Comp alive during the LEC split, and honestly, his stats don't show how well he did, but with the fact he got Rookie of the Split for LEC, it's pretty clear that there's a lot of potential in this player. Now, coming into stats right now, you're gonna notice I've been very, very nice to this guy, because, you know, I think he's very, very good. And here we go. Mechanics, 4.7. One of the highest mechanical skills as a support, and honestly, I don't think anyone better deserves it. I've watched him play throughout the entirety of the LEC, and to me, he just was on another level to the rest of the league. His plays were incredibly good, that honestly, I don't think anyone else beat him in terms of lane matchups. The only issue I would say with this guy is sometimes he may go a bit too aggressive in terms of playing and get caught out, but he does counteract it with his safety sometimes, and that's what makes him such a spicy player. Now, coming into this year, you've got to keep your eyes on his enchanters, his Morgs, his Lulus, and Bards. They're the sort of things that he's been playing a lot during the regular split of the LEC last year, and although the meta goes towards tank supports in the current stages, the likes of the Leonas, the Pantheons, and even the Nautilus is being played now, it's still quite a big option for him to go towards these enchanters, because they do counteract some of these tankier supports. Anyway, without further ado, let's go over his other stats. Communication now, 4.5, and I feel he is the leader that's going to step up this year. Honestly, with how the squad performed last year, he was the guy given the go signal. He was choosing the paths, going into places, engaging heavily, and doing a lot of the work. And it allowed the likes of Cabochard to just choo-choo train on his Scion, which he played almost in nearly every game, or his Malphite, just to go in. Like, he set these plays up, and that is a huge credit to Labrov. And it's why now that Cabochard's gone from this lineup, he's going to have to step up considerably more and take the full voice of the Vitality lineup. And lastly, 2020 accomplishments 2.5. He isn't getting the standard 2 that the other Vitality members got, because he actually got accreditation for his Rookie of the Split performance last year. So he gets the plus 0.5 for that. Anyway, we're done with all the players in the LEC now. Finally, I can rest my voice from talking about each individual player and their stats. Let's go to our final LEC placement table for the very last time. As our predictions table floats for the final time, we get that opportunity to explain why I put Vitality in 9th. Well, I'll be brutally honest, I don't know why I put him in 9th. Yeah, I looked at how I built this table, and I was building it step by step. Vitality obviously was the last team I got to, and with such strong players, the likes of Labrov being a standout performer on this lineup, and Comp also being a standout performer in my opinion for Vitality, I just felt that the way that they set themselves up with this squad, it's kind of an interesting thing, because the only new player is their top laner. The rest of them competed last split, and they competed to nearly making playoffs. That's basically it. They nigh on missed it, is what I was going to say. But we'll go with nearly. And why do I feel that they would have probably gone out immediately after the first round of playoffs? They would have lost to whoever in the lower bracket. But it makes a change to actually see them possibly make a challenge for it this split, I would say. The squad looks very strong. Obviously, losing Cabochard, who is a phenomenal player, is a big loss, who was basically the voice of the squad. He was the guy that drove them forward and made them go forward. And losing that is a huge loss for this roster, where they're going to have to struggle to find their voice. Whether or not they do so, it's only time will tell. And as our time ends here in this series, I want to wish you all a very big thank you for watching this very short mini series on my channel. If you've enjoyed it, leave a like down below. Subscribe if you're new around here if you want to, and I will see you guys for the LEC lock-in predictions, where we will be basically going through the matches in the first round and predicting who will win them, along with the start of the LEC predictions for the spring/summer split of 2020. See you guys then.